Women. What's the biggest man-child red flag? Living like a head, eating like a 12-year-old, doesn't read, doesn't progress, complains endlessly, never assumes responsibility, but would say things like, "Ugh, I'm such a jerk. I'm so stupid. I'm a mess." Like, yeah, okay, and what will you do about it now, Michael? Throws a tantrum when they don't get their own way. Like a child screaming in a store because their mum wouldn't buy them a toy, so they never grow out of that. Only acts nice because they want something in return. Everything has strings and an unwritten contract. Known and read of a few breakups that happened because turns out, after they moved out of their parents' place, they treated their partner like they were their new mother/father. Oh no, not this one. This is such an ick, guys. Please don't do this. Don't treat your partner like your mum or your dad. Just don't do it. The last thing we want as women is to have to treat our boyfriends like our sons, or to have to baby them, to have to change their boxers, get them in the shower, cook them tea, wash their clothes, where. We don't want to do it, guys. We really don't. Let's grow up. Oh my God. I almost married one. Here, have a list. Forces himself to dislike something just because you like it. Ever see a grown man grit or grind his teeth while playing a video game that you encouraged him to try? I have. Fussy eater. Will not eat anything that isn't pizza or burgers and has zero interest in broadening his culinary horizons. I was sympathetic at first, but he aggressively refused all of my suggestions. Owns various books on get-rich-quick schemes. I know, I probably should have left there and then. Spontaneous vehicle purchases. Owns a classic car from high school that he refuses to part with, but never drives it, works on it, or does anything with it except keep it insured and have difficulty finding places to park it. He had this facade of being handy, but every time he would set out to do something handy, he needed someone else there to help him. I need James to come over and help me with the brakes on my car. I've called my dad to help with the tile backsplash in our kitchen, etc, etc. And then they would just end up doing it for him. Makes fun of the things you like. Pay attention to this, seriously. A normal guy should be able to appreciate that you like things, even if they're different from the things that he likes. He outright mocked me for enjoying certain video games that weren't the loot instant gratification variety. A man appreciates and respects your choices. A child points and laughs at the things you like. Wants the house perfectly spotless, but will never do anything to get off his lazy to help with that. Works a part-time job and refuses to consider going back to school or do really anything to get him out of that situation that isn't whining about not getting a promotion after working sorting mail for nearly 10 years. Honestly, liberal arts degree. Such entitlement. Wow. Wants a dog, gets a dog, does absolutely frickle with taking care of / cleaning up after / training the dog. Doesn't want to have kids yet, because then he'll have to share his toys. Seriously, he's not being funny when he says ish like this. He's legitimately a greedy, selfish man baby, and you should not procreate with him. Learn from my almost mistake. Run. Buys expensive things right after you tell him not to buy those things, and then expects it to just be okay. Always talks about having a ton of money coming in. Truth is, he has no money coming in, just entitlement issues up the He wants to dazzle you with cash he doesn't actually have. Wants to become a lawyer. Has absolutely no interest in actually putting any effort into becoming a lawyer. In truth, he actually just wants to argue more and get away with saying stupid-ish in front of a judge. This is not the kind of person who becomes a lawyer. Any freaking time he playfully whines about something. But I want to see X movie, not Y. But I want a new one of these because mine's not working properly. Etc, etc, etc. And then playfully laughs. Pro tip, it's not fake whining to be funny. It's actual whining disguised as fake funny whining. Just stay away from any and all whining. Haha, man baby. I like that word. Man baby, man baby, man baby, man baby. But yes, I hate to say it, but I can agree with this on a lot of different occasions with my own partner. However, I haven't run away yet, so I should probably take these tips. Lol. Having his mother appear on your doorstep at random freaking times to harass you after you dump him and he kicks himself out. That was fun. Not. They were looking in my freaking window to see whether I was home. Sending harassing texts and emails after you dump him saying he's entitled to spousal support and you paying off all of his debt that he accrued without your input. even though he's left you with 2 pets and a house you can barely afford on your own. Now that was actually fun, forwarding everything to my family lawyer to discredit him. Really, he did it all himself. His relatives post vaguely on their Facebook about how they're happy in their marriages / whatever, and would never treat their spouse like that. Translation: Man baby has been crying to entire family. You're the scum of the earth. How dare you find fault in this perfect cinnamon roll? Probably the biggest one. Talks a lot about stuff he wants. Never actually puts forward any effort into actually getting it. Never. He just expects it to magically happen without his input at all. Everything you do annoys him. Literally everything. How dare you listen to music while you cook or clean? How dare you soak potting soil in the sink for plant pots? It's so dirty even though it takes less than a minute to wipe up. How dare you get back into painting? That's money I can't spend on pizza. How dare you order off the dinner menu? Never mind that I go for lunch twice a week with my friend Kyle. It's so expensive when I eat out with you maybe twice a year. If you upset his happy norm by existing, you're sure to hear some whining about it. Guys and gals, we are really going in on men. We are really going in on the men. I mean, I guess this is about man babies, but yeah, we're making ourselves heard on this one. Let's say that for sure. It would be funny if there was like a man version of this about women. I wonder if like the same kind of topics and things would come up. I'm sure there would be a thread about that. Filthy apartment. Floors never swept or washed. Toilet smells like hell's urinal. Piles of dirty laundry. Few or no kitchen utensils. Garbage hasn't been taken out in who knows how long. Kitchen littered with Gatorade bottles and fast food / frozen meal containers. Nasty sheets. And posters of scantily clad models and or Scarface movie posters as the only decorations. Okay, yeah, this one is gross. No matter who you are, what you look like, how funny you are, if you live like a slob, I'm out of there. Do you know what I mean? There's literally nothing worse, like rubbish everywhere, like bed never made, just like a dirty place to live, like a dirty living environment is just the biggest turn off there is. Like, come on, surely you know how to look after yourself. Like, sort your hygiene levels out, mate. Who wants to live like that? Come on. And of course, you know, if there's more than what meets the eye, like there's mental health issues involved or you have some kind of physical injury, you know, then that's a completely different ballgame. I understand that. But if the mess is down to pure laziness, then it's an absolute no from me. Tantrums. My ex broke up with me over the phone at 1:30 a.m. a few days before Christmas because I told him I was going to hang out at my place that day and have a bath, do my nails, face masks, girly-ish like that. Apparently, that's rude because our want for chill days away from each other should align. He was also scandalised when I said, lol, okay, and refused to take him back. No thanks, crazy I'm good. I know a guy who constantly witches about being single. He's 33. He'll crush on one girl for like 6 months without showing her any sign of interest. Finally work up the nerve to ask her out. Get rejected, and pine after her for another year or so, hoping she'll change her mind. Despite being objectively very unattractive, not having a career, relying on friends to rent him space well below market value, he only ever aims for girls that are an 8 or higher. He has this ridiculous criteria too. Refuses to take anyone taller, and he's like 5'7", or older than him. Wants to marry into money. Expects his future wife to be a homemaker raising their 5 to 8 children. Thinks any other than missionary position with the lights off is gross. He's had girls interested in him before. Girls who were out of his league. And never pursued anything because they were a couple years older or a couple inches taller than him. Yeah, he's a complete man-child. And I'm positive he'll die alone. Is this guy alright? He sounds like a right oddball. I can't lie. I kind of want to swear, but I can't swear. Put it this way. He sounds like a right beep. They try something once, and when it doesn't immediately work for them, they wallow in self-pity rather than try again. I can't ask out a girl. I got rejected once and it hurts too bad. I can't exercise. I ran a mile once and it didn't do anything. I tried to learn a foreign language once, but it took too long. All actual quotes from the man-children in my life. Okay, here we go. I had a roommate named Fergus or something like that. He moved in with me and one other girl in August. About November, we noticed that Fergus, while using every dish in the house, had never actually washed anything. The other girl and I had been taking turns, but not talking about it since our schedules were so opposite. So we'd never realised Fergus was such a piece of ish. But then, she went out of state for a couple months, and I quickly told Fergus playtime was over. It was his turn to do the dishes. He had good grace to apologise for not getting around to it, and mentioned that if he'd ever seen the sink really full, he'd of course have done some dishes, but we just washed his stuff before he had the chance to. Okay, whatever. I did the dishes from a small Thanksgiving dinner, and then I left the kitchen to Fergus. I used paper plates and cups and plastic silverware for the next month. I didn't really cook, just microwaved. It was finals anyway, and Fergus proceeded to use dishes without washing them until every cupboard was empty, and every glass, plate, bowl, cup, fork, etc. was crusted and filthy in a pile. He clearly expected me to cave if he made a big enough mess. The other girl would have within a week. I'm made of sterner stuff. I fully intended to wait however long it took. Christmas Eve morning, after 30 plus days of this bullish, I awake to the astonishing sound of the kitchen being cleaned. There's water running, plates clinking, dishwashing going. I walk out in amazement and find a complete stranger cleaning my kitchen. She looks up at me in a somewhat unfriendly manner, and Fergus pipes up from the living room, where he's sitting motionless on his phone. Hey, this is my mum. She came to pick me up for Christmas. I laughed, obnoxiously. I laughed at the man-child who got his mummy to drive 4 hours to do his dishes and drive him home when he was 25 years old. She defended him. Nothing's that funny. Oh, this is, I said, and went back into my room. She mopped the floor and then they left. After that, I basically told him that he was going to pay a service or pay me to clean the kitchen once a week, because he obviously couldn't be trusted with the level of responsibility you'd give a 13-year-old. His mum sent him an extra $75 a month for the rest of the lease. Something I haven't seen mentioned yet is finances. Man-children typically either don't work, or else they work part-time at a minimum wage job. They'll call in on weekends because they want to party, and they're just too lazy to actually put in effort to work more. Unless they're rich and are used to daddy buying everything for them, they never have much money. They are always broke when it comes time to pay rent or the electric bill. But they mysteriously always have money to buy video games or can't keep a relationship going because they're more in love with a fantasy version of the girl they were with, so whenever a problem actually comes along, instead of working through it, they get upset and bail because she wasn't who he thought she was. And he doesn't want to actually put work into anything. Won't put up with some unpleasant shopping trips. I know a guy that throws the biggest fit if his wife goes off their shopping list or wants to make a stop somewhere else. She'll go with him to Best Buy while he looks at video games, but when she wants to stop at Bath and Body Works right next door, he freaks out and complains the second they walk in the door about how bored he is and pouts through the whole trip. Ugh, I've never really experienced this personally myself, but I mean, this just sounds exhausting. Like when it's one rule for them and another rule for you. To be fair though, I mean, this isn't every man on the entire planet. Like, I think this more depends on who you are as a person as to whether you pout when things don't go your way. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's just down to like a gender. That's just depends on who you actually are. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. How involved his mummy is in his life. Good relationship with mum, keeps in touch, family holidays, healthy boundaries, maybe calls for advice on when cooking something complicated, or what the frick to do with silk. Good. Mum stops by the house all the time, stocks his fridge, brings him meals, does his laundry, buys his clothes, cleans his house, and has him over for dinner 3 nights a week. Bad. Mummy is telling him who he should and shouldn't date, what jobs he should have, what he should be doing with his money, or is still holding the apron strings after, say, 21. Worst. Other red flags. Refusal to learn basic adult concepts like how to cook, clean, launder, or maintain things and claiming it's someone else's job. Constantly shifting blame. Living in a house that looks like it was decorated by a 15-year-old. Inability to hold a conversation about anything more serious than TV, video games, or movies. Ah, yes. How involved the mum is. I'm surprised this hasn't come up a lot more often, actually. Because, you know, you hear this all the time, don't you? Like, the amount that the mum is involved with her son's life and relationships is a big pointer as to how a relationship with another female or man is going to go, that the son's in. So yeah, I'm surprised that this hasn't come up a lot more. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments. I'm very intrigued. Oh boy, do I have a list for you from my first serious boyfriend. His mum made his lunch for work every day. PB&J, peanut butter cups and little Debbie cakes. Just sugar, basically. Wanted to go out to breakfast every Sunday but wouldn't get out of bed until I showed up at his house to wake him up. Flipped out if I didn't text him every morning before I went to class, and called him every night before I went to bed. No, he couldn't be the one to call/text me. That was my job. Punched inanimate objects when he was mad. Complained that I leaked bodily fluids on his sheets because he didn't want mummy to see them when she did his laundry. And this last one is really bizarre. He thought throwing soap at the wall when he stayed in a hotel was really fun and entertaining. Soap, like in a hotel that had a TV that he was staying in for one night. Not a windowless prison where he was forced to use his meagre supply of toiletries to amuse himself. For me, it would be a man who makes no effort to keep his home clean, who can't even cook the most rudimentary of meals, and who sees absolutely no problem with this. It shows a pretty marked immaturity that I don't have time to deal with. Not to mention that he'd better not even think that I would automatically be glad to do all of this for him just because I'm a woman. And I'm not talking Martha Stewart level of cooking and cleaning either. My place isn't spotless and I'm no gourmet chef, but I expect to see just enough to keep the health department away and maybe eat a home-cooked meal once or twice a week. Yes, girl. Yes, girl. Basic wants and needs, I feel. Basic wants and needs. Also, I've already been over how disgusting I think having a dirty living environment is, but to add to that, if they see no problem with it, if they think it's normal, if they think it's okay, yes, red flag. Red flag. When the guy is in denial about calling anything you do together a date, but when you ask if what you're doing is a date, or bring up the notion that it could be something other than a casual hookup, you are suddenly a psychotic stage 5 clinger who wants to get married and have a million babies on a strict timeline. Jeez, dude. I just asked if we were on a date because it wasn't clear. I wasn't asking you to freaking marry me. Flipping out over menstrual cycle. Once knew a guy who would act so disgusted whenever any female in the vicinity mentioned periods. Could be a girl asking another girl to check her pants for blood spores, or a girl complaining about cramps. He couldn't stand to hear anything about them. When I'd be moody on my period, he would say things like, "That time of the month again." And I would say yes. He would start talking about how he didn't want to hear that, and it was disgusting. Like, dude, you brought it up. This was also a guy who loved talking about how blackout drunk he got, and how he'd throw up everywhere, and once his pants at a party and thought it was awesome. This was a man who was at least 21. I'm okay with guys being uncomfortable around periods, since it's a pretty foreign concept to them. But this guy liked complaining about how gross periods were more than I liked complaining about how painful my periods were, which is saying something. Been on birth control 3 years and I no longer feel like somebody's stabbing me in the uterus every second of my period. Yes, I fully back you on this one. This one really aggravates me. However, I feel like this is a great detector of maturity, because I feel like since I've grown up, the men around me aren't fazed by it at all. Like they're finally getting to grips with the fact that women have periods. Whereas when I was in school and college, it was disgusting. Like to the men, they couldn't actually understand the fact that we had blood coming out of our do you know what I mean? It was like all hell would break loose. So I feel like that was more of a younger guy kind of thing. And it's not so much an issue now, but I could be wrong. This is just my own personal experiences with it. Will only clean what mess he makes. Oh, you made dinner. Clean the dishes you used. I'll wash my drinking glass since I filled it. Or he can't be wrong, misunderstand, misspeak, or not hear something correctly. I never said that. That's not something I say. Not seeing something from a different perspective. Like picking your battles. A Mario Kart race is not worth throwing and destroying a controller. No money bet on game, just felt cheated. We can't play certain games because he gets aggressive when he loses or others are in the lead, and complains all up until he wins at the end. Does ish to other people in game that if done to him, he would throw a tantrum. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos coming daily.